Francisco, congratulations. I haven't talked to you since you have assumed your new position as Associate Administrator of the Small Business Association's Office of Disaster Assistance, which is a mouthful. I can only imagine what this card looks like. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This week will mark 6 months on the job, sworn in on January 10th, and have hit the ground running. And it's been such an honor to serve and represent Texas and take it to this level and talk and work on the issues we've been passionate about for a few years now. So.
Oh my gosh, I can't think of a better person to have in Washington, D.C. You and Jimmy Stewart, those are the two best in D.C. Well, listen, you obviously bring a wealth of expertise, as was the reason for them being so interested in you, having served on command staff of 4 of the country's most devastating natural disasters, and one of them, of course, being Hurricane Harvey here in Houston. And so I'm wondering right off the bat, how has your experience in Texas provided you with knowledge in your new role on a national level?
It's been extraordinarily helpful. First, I am the only non-banker to ever hold this position. The SBA has traditionally, it's a lending program to assist renters, homeowners, private nonprofits, and businesses obviously as well. But I bring that perspective of having the field experience of helping communities recover. That experience of having been on command staff, as you mentioned, for 4 of our nation's 10 most costly natural disasters, then a pandemic, a historic ice storm, a major industrial incident, the diversity of the disasters that we faced, but also the complexity of our community has prepared me for the national stage, and 50 states plus all those counties and all those cities that we're on the ground in right now. Houston, Harris County with 34 cities, just in Harris County alone, that all have to come together and communicate, coordinate, and collaborate to make sure we make the most use of all those resources together in what can be challenging times to recover. It has really prepared me well for the challenges and opportunities that we have here in Washington to set the stage for a new look at recovery.
Well, I think it's interesting because we all tend to forget that 99.9% of the companies in the United States are small businesses, and we have so much attention that's given to large corporations. So I'm interested in your new role, aside from the money and finances that you provide, which of course is vital, but what information do you want to see small businesses having in terms of preparing for disasters?
One, recognizing that our small businesses are the backbone of our economy, representing almost 50% of our employers. And small businesses, we saw their value and their ability to work through COVID and the value they bring to local economies. The more they're growing, economies thrive and people prosper. And so the value that we understand those to have, we have to bring the resources to make sure that they can grow and thrive, but also survive disaster. And it's essential for them to make that part of their business planning process. I think as we're going through the small business boom, as I'm collaborating with the other leadership here at SBA, is ensuring that as we give them the tools to grow and succeed, that we make disaster recovery a part of that. Coming from the Gulf Coast, it's July and it's the start of hurricane season, so I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a minute and talk about the importance that businesses be prepared. One, to have a plan that's suitable for their business. That includes, how do you reach down to your employees? How do you stay in touch with your customers? And lessons that we've learned during COVID is make sure you have a strong and resilient supply chain as possible. Being able to have alternative locations, or even in the e-commerce space. And coming from a community that floods frequently, do you have flood insurance? And aside from that, do you have the insurance that makes sense for what your particular company does? So a robust look at what your inventory looks like for business is critical. Business disruption plans and insurance is important. So if you take those steps into account as a small business, you're well on your way to be prepared.
Yeah, I mean, preparedness is the name of the game. Now, you are a consummate communicator, and I can only imagine your answer to this question, but the last one I have to ask you is, how important is communication in terms of preparation?
My mindset hasn't shifted at all when it comes to communications and crisis. Communications, the single most important factor in determining how our response to disaster is going to be in that spectrum between failure and success. And when it comes to businesses succeeding, that's an important part of our economies thriving and our communities recovering as a whole. Communication is absolutely essential on multiple fronts. One, letting people know what's happening. Particular to their situation. People will be consuming a lot of information from their local officials about what the threat the community is facing, but how do employers, educational institutions communicate to their workforce what's happening and what are we thinking doing right now as a business? When you're in the midst of that disaster, communicating what's happening, what impacts are likely, capturing feedback, and communication ought to be both ways. To ensure that everybody's moving in the same direction. And post-disaster, especially that's where we come in, aside from the preparedness piece at the front, what resources are available, working with local, state, and federal partners to make the information as accessible as possible. It is a complex web of resources that come in from every level of government, but also from those local officials and our private nonprofits. And so making sure that we also do that on the platforms that people find useful.
Well, Francisco, thank you so much. I really appreciate the conversation. And as I say, just knowing you like I do, I feel safer knowing that we have you in Washington, D.C.
Well, Kelly, it was nice to see you again and look forward to being down in Houston again soon and glad to have the conversation. Look forward to being in touch.
Good. Thanks so much.